Hello everybody, Infinite Shinjo here. Welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh review, and today I am discussing Yu-Gi-Oh! ZeXal. I don't know if it's technically pronounced Yu-Gi-Oh! ZeXal or Yu-Gi-Oh! ZeXal. You can pronounce it either way, I feel. I might be wrong on that, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to pronounce it ZeXal because that's the way I pronounced it. But to start with discussing this show, let me get the elephant in the room out of the way. People did not like this show. I always compare this to the black and white anime of Pokemon because both were heavily criticized because they took such a drastic approach from what the series before was. Where with Pokemon, you have Diamond and Pearl. Ash got to literally the top 4 of the Sinnoh League and he just loses to stupid reasons in a Darkrai. And here, Ash just reverts back to Season 1 counterpart. Which makes sense because they're trying to recreate the original series of Pokemon with black and white. And then you have ZeXal. Actually, I can see more comparisons with ZeXal now that I'm thinking about it. Because it's more or less trying to be the original series at first as well. Because you have a character that wears something around his neck and he has a spirit partner. And one of his rivals has a younger brother. Kite, Heart, Kaiba, Mokuba. Obviously there are probably more comparisons that you can make, but they are really different as far as everything else goes. But going through the arcs, I'm not sure how to classify them technically. I just wrote down numbers, dual carnival, variants. I think there might be more in between there, but I think the variants covered a large part of the show. I think Dawn 1000 might be an arc as well, I'm not entirely sure. But also, it has been a while since I've watched anything from ZeXal, so I'm not going to go into too many specifics. Obviously, the big criticism with ZeXal being ZeXal is something that's always talked about. Although, I will make a case that if ZeXal wouldn't have come out right after 5Ds, then it probably wouldn't have been received so badly. It still would have been received badly, but I feel like it wouldn't have been that bad. But like I said, early ZeXal was very rough. It starts off the exact same way the original series started. Yuma faces off against Shark, like Yugi faces off against Kaiba. But overall from there, it's just a lot of filler. There's an episode dedicated to introducing Caswell. And there was an episode that introduced Kathy Catherine. That's really funny looking back on it. But there were so many episodes that had so much filler. Like, there's the kid that had that mask and cape that... The only reason I remember this clip is he summons... I can't think of what the number monster's name is. But the monster looks like his mother. So I just remember a dub clip of Yuma just saying, "You just summoned your mom." And that's just golden.
You just summoned your mom.
But even though the early plot is similar to the original Yu-Gi-Oh, I still like it. Although to be fair, the big start of ZeXal is in a tournament like Duelist Kingdom is. And then when the Dual Carnival comes in, it's unique enough that, oh, we're riding around on roller coasters, but we're also dueling. Almost like a weird ode to 5Ds or something. But I can't talk about ZeXal without talking about Vector. Yes, I know I'm jumping around. But Vector is such a good villain. I only watched ZeXal dubbed, but I think it was Billy Bob Thompson that did Vector's voice in the dub. He did such a phenomenal job. He's such a fun character. I can only imagine how he sounds in the sub. But just the whole concept of Ray Shadows, which that's a double joke in itself because Shadows, obviously he's going to be evil, but also now with the YouTube age that we're living in, Ray Shadows, Raid, Shadow Legends. I just thought of that joke myself. I hope at least one person appreciates that. But the whole thing of Ray being buddy-buddy with Yuma, and at that point, I don't remember if I even considered, oh yeah, he might be evil. Because I don't think they've done something like that with Yu-Gi-Oh yet. they didn't really do it with Jesse because Jesse was possessed by Yubel. And then 5Ds with Bruno, he really wasn't evil per se. But with Vector, he's just straight up evil. And it's just really well done in my opinion. And I want to shout out the final duel of the show. I don't remember much from it, but I do remember that Yuma wins against Astral by using Double or Nothing, the exact card that they won their first duel with, and a staple card for his deck, especially using Utopia. But I have almost finished all of my positives for the show, and I haven't really been recording for a while, so I guess I can just run off a couple of the characters from the show that I really like and a couple of the decks as well. So, characters, I really like Dextra. I don't know what it is about Dextra, I just really like Dextra's character. And if I'm not mistaken, Dextra is Veronica Taylor, so that's even better. And then obviously, Kite, Shark, they're definitely top contender characters as well. Yuma, to be fair, even though he is a little bit annoying, I still like him as a character. And the villains, I'd say all of the villains are pretty top tier. Some get more recognition than others, but I'd say all the villains were well done. Maybe not Dr. Faker, but like overall, most of them are pretty well done. And then the decks, ZeXal came out around the time that I was finishing high school, so I remember using a lot of decks. Like even now, I have a Butterspy deck, I have a Heroic deck. I really like the Heroics, and the Battle in Boxers, my gosh, I love those things. But jumping back to the last positive that I wrote down, I really like how this is the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the protagonist isn't just the best duelist in the world. Cause before, Yugi Moto, literal king of games, Jaden, just has a good deck. Yusei, I feel like you could make a more of a case for Yusei, because being in the satellite, you basically have to fight for everything that you want, more or less. So losing isn't really something that Yusei even considers, especially not in the show. But with early ZeXal, there really isn't many stakes. There are tons of times that Yuma even draws, and seeing Yuma actually lose makes it more relatable, at least for me. Because if it's just a character like Jaden or Yusei, I'm trying not to mention the Yugi because it's the original series, there's nostalgia there. But you take characters like Jaden or Yusei, they never lost. Well, Jaden lost like a couple of times, but overall they very rarely lost. So for me, it's harder to get invested in a character like that, because if they just never lose, there isn't really many stakes. And especially now, seeing Yuma lose, it's always a question of, okay, Yuma's in this duel. Unless it's a big fate of the world situation, is Yuma actually going to win or not? Because apparently in a flashback at the very start of the show, Yuma lost to Bronk like a lot of times. So even having that line included, whether it was dub only or not, is just really cool. And I think Yuma even lost to Kite once. So at least it makes it so it's unpredictable. And I really like that, because if it's a character like Yusei, you already know he's going to win. But on to the stuff that I didn't like. Obviously, I don't remember the show specifics, so there might be some minor stuff with the show that I just didn't like. But overall, with the show as a whole, like I already touched on, Yuma can be an annoying character, but I feel like he strikes the nice balance of a bit annoying and goofy to at some points being serious, especially with the Baryon arc. But what I can't forgive is Yuma's friends. Like, I'm just gonna list them off here to see if anybody actually remembers any of them. Tori, Bronk, Caswell, Kathy, Flip. I almost forgot Flip. They are just so worthless. I mean, Bronk, no, I think it was Bronk and Flip, or Caswell and Bronk. Two of them faced off against Quattro. They got destroyed. Kathy won a duel, but she faced off against a person that was making a dog talk. put that in perspective. And then Flip. I don't even want to get started with any of these characters. Tori dueled once, and it was only when she was mind controlled. Let that sink in. Yuma's friends did not do anything. But the unfortunate part of it is, with such a large cast that keeps on getting new characters, because you already start with Yuma Astral, Kite, Shark. There's basically the whole show at this point. But then you have Yuma's friends. Then you have the Arclight brothers. You have Dextra and Cena. Nope, that's from Pokemon. What's the names? Dextra and Nistro. And then all the variants. And there are some minor characters in there as well. There's so many characters in this show that some of them just have to be pushed to the wayside. Yeah, ZeXal certainly wasn't a bad show near the end, but the start was very rough. And obviously, I talked more about the backlash from ZeXal than the actual show, but I've learned that you can't even talk about ZeXal without talking about the backlash. So let's move on to my new favorite segment, my favorite character and my most underdeveloped character. And this was honestly a hard case to make, but I think my favorite character is going to be Shark. I really like Shark's voice in the dub to start, and the whole twist about him being a Barian at the end is just really cool. I was really close to picking someone like Vector or Kite, but I just really like Shark. He's a lot like Joey in that he destroys Yuma's prized possession, but then has a change of heart later on. But in a way, he's a lot better because he's just a really cool dude. I would honestly hang out with him if he was real. And most underdeveloped character, I didn't want to put all of Yuma's friends here. If I could, that's what would be here. But instead, I'm going to put Heart here. Although you could make the case for Yuma's friends because they actually dueled. But Heart was so vital to the start of the show that they just kind of didn't do anything with Heart at the end. At least with Arc 5, which will be next time, you have Ray and Declan. I think it is. I think it's Reiji in the sub version. Akaba. The Akaba brothers. At least with that, both of them dueled. One dueled more than the other, but at least Ray did something. That much I can say. Oh no, wait. Ray is the spirit thing. Declan's little brother. The one that has... I can't remember what the deck is, but whatever. Doesn't matter. You get my point. The fact that Kite was so vital to the show, and Heart as well, they just didn't do anything with Heart at the end. At least not from what I can remember. But that is my review of ZeXal, and buckle yourself in, because next time is going to be Arc 5. I'll see you then. Momentai.